Morning, everybody. My name's Shadow, and today we're here interviewing Mr. Calvin T. Mann. I got to know Calvin a little bit here on Clubhouse, and Calvin is a man that the world needs to know. For the last 14 years, Calvin has ran a 501c nonprofit, an outreach program to young boys without fathers in Detroit, Michigan. Calvin is the epitome of the underdog. He's a man who has run up against every single wall a person possibly could, and he's never quit. He's never backed down, and he's never stopped his mission. So I brought him here today, not only on Clubhouse, and for those of you who don't know what Clubhouse is, right over here, this is Clubhouse. It's an all-audio social media platform that if you aren't on, I highly suggest you jump on it. And for those of you on Clubhouse, I am streaming Clubhouse to Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and about 19 other platforms currently. If you click in my bio at the bottom, it'll actually link you right over to my Instagram where I'm live. And there's a link tree in the description that goes to all the other places. So we're going to get right into this, and I want to make sure that we show Calvin the respect that he deserves, because I want to walk through his story, because it's a story you don't want to miss. So, Mr. Calvin, let's go back to the beginning. What did you do before you got the nonprofit? Calvin.
Okay, so can you hear the wind?
You're
Is
better.
the wind still heavy?
No, you're good.
So I literally was a coach. I became the youngest varsity basketball coach at the age of 23 at Ferndale High School, which is kind of ironic. There's a Ferndale, Washington, in Seattle.
I was about to say it's only about 5 miles from me.
Yeah, we used to send students back and forth, right, and work together. But coach for 23, coach for a number of years, really, at the age of 23, being the youngest varsity coach. And when I came back out into the world after coaching, very successful, I didn't get the main head job I was looking for. So my son was in middle school, so I went to middle school. I coached my son's middle school team 2 years in a row, championships. And literally after that, my son went into high school. So I was following my son to make sure, being an involved parent. And I recognized that a lot of kids were being killed.
Right. I've heard so many of your stories, and I gotta say, the more I hear, the more impressed I am by you. So you inherited the nonprofit, correct?
Yes, in 2007, a mom, it was actually fall 2006. A young man wasn't going to school. Someone told the mom, and she was a pastor and everything. I cannot remember her name because it was such a fast relationship. And I helped her son. In about 3 weeks, he got up and never looked back. And like clockwork, she started asking me a lot of questions, because at that time we were still just a t-shirt line, right? So we had already started laying shirts with kids who were getting killed and everything, and here we are. And one day she asked me out to lunch. She paid me some more money, and she gave me this nonprofit, Encourage Me, I'm Young, Inc.
So let me give everybody a little backstory. Calvin here has a nonprofit. It's called Emiy World. It stands for Encourage Me, I'm Young. Now, over the last 14 years, he has directly impacted the lives of over 20,000 kids. He has worked with over 20,000 youth without fathers to give them hope for the future. Now, out of 20,000 kids, he's never lost one to suicide. That's a pretty dang good track record. but it's even more than that. So to support this mission of his, he sells clothing. He has the Emiy World brand, and he does something else really, really incredible. He he started doing something where every time a child is killed in his community, he goes to the location and lays one of the shirts where the kid died. Calvin, how many T-shirts have you laid total, you think?
Uh, well, I started counting after a while. My uncle told me I needed to count. So 630. The last one, it was ironic, is the first one was my brother's nephew, which my half brother, it was his nephew, which, however you want to look at it, my nephew. And the last one was my niece in 2018. She was murdered getting off a bus.
Wow.
And, and, what was crazy about that is because what she was dealing with, she was listed as Jane Doe, and it was on the news. And this is how we found out my niece was murdered.
Wow. So in Detroit, Michigan, in the last 14 years, he has been the location of 630 kids' deaths. That's astronomical that so many kids are dying in a community in the United States of all places. I mean, this is the US. It blows my mind that so many kids are suffering here in the US, and this isn't everywhere. I mean, like that's not a small number. That's a number that is absolutely shocking. Um, you've told me about a few of the specific ones that you've gone to, and you told me how you have to carry the weight of all those deaths, and I get that. When you actually become part of something like that, it's not something that goes away, and to see so many, I mean, I've been to probably a dozen kids' funerals, and I can remember every inch of every single one of them. And you told me a story about the one at the gas station you avoid.
Yeah,
Can you tell me
yeah,
about
that
that
was tough.
again?
So there was a young girl was taken out of the window while during this. It was the summer, and this young lady was taken out of the window, and so everyone was looking for her. And then there was a house fire about from her to about I say it was a good. So this was Linwood, right? So we're saying probably a mile away from where she was taken. This baby basically was set on fire in this house. And what happened was the person was videotaped at the gas station getting gas, but they weren't quite sure it was the person, right? So when the family saw the person, it was someone that they knew, and right, so they went picked the guy up. Anyway, that morning, in front of this house was all these little kids' dolls, literally had surrounded, and I cannot find the picture. Someone took the picture, but literally in the middle of all the dolls was an Emiy T-shirt. So it's like they put all the dolls around the shirt. Now the house is still up. On my Instagram is the small video where my son recorded me because the house was still up, and you could see the charred marks on the house and everything. And it was, it was cold, but my son videotaped me there, and it's on my Instagram. And I'm in a red head, but that was probably, I would say that, when I was asked this before, but that's a tough tough, tough. There are a number of them that were so tough that I didn't forget them because, you're in a zone. You're just laying them, saying a prayer, and leaving. I didn't no follow up, nothing. But there were certain ones that just left a mark in your life, and that was one of them.
I bet. So let's talk about why the clothing line. Why what's the purpose behind the clothing line?
So one, I recognized a lot of kids were being killed, but prior to that, there was an article in Abercrombie and Fitch about negative apparel back in 2002, 2003. And I saw it, and that's when, I tied it to, right, okay, so here's what I'm going to do. And then I get a phone call because I had encouraged me, I'm young, since 1992, but it was just on our basketball team, right? And we just put on the back of Ferndale basketball, right, on the back of it, it would say, encourage me, I'm young. And so people would stop and read the shirt. And it was just that simple. But a friend of mine called me and said, hey, Cal, I thought you said you was going to make Emiy, a clothing line. And so I laughed. I said, yeah. I said, man, I'm trying to deal with what's going on with these kids. So I called my brother. And my brother, who at the time was coaching at Western Michigan, he was like, don't be part of the problem, be part of the solution. And so then me and my son, we went and sat in church, and like clockwork, never happened before, born and raised in church, the pastor stands up and yells, Calvin, man, you got the gift with them kids. You better go see about it. So I'm looking around the church like, who are you talking to? Like, And Pastor Griffin and I are still friends to this day, but um, I that's how the T-shirt began. So what I did was I was working at Northwest Airlines on my off days. I went and volunteered at a print shop. And at the print shop, I came over with E period, M period, I period, Y period. And so I would go help them volunteer hours to learn how to print. And so the very first shirt was time is all we have to change what we are.
I love that.
And that was the very first shirt. That was the first one I printed. After that, I printed another one, but the first one, that was the very first one. And that's the one I started laying shirts where kids were getting killed to offer hope.
The other thing that's really impressed me about you is your absolute resilience. I've heard countless stories from you about how you've been pushing this brand. Can you tell me the story again about the standing in the snowstorm, waiting outside the bus?
So season 4, you can look it up on YouTube. Season 4 of Ron's House is Encourage Me, I'm Young is on Ron's House, right? It happened, Hip Hop Summit, running to Russell Simmons. I hand him a shirt for him and his wife. He says his wife is not going to wear the shirt, right? He's like, man, she's not going to wear that shirt. She too, bougie or whatever the case may be. And he said, I just know she's not going to wear it, right? And so he takes the one shirt. And my uncle and I at the time were working together. And so we packaged up. We packaged up 6 shirts in a package, right? And we sent it to his headquarters, right to New York, Russell Simmons, the whole nine. At the time, I was doing music as well, so I had a soundtrack where we did with Brewster Projects, and so I handed Russell, and then I got a haircut. At that time, I had my hair braided, right? My hair was out, so I cut my hair. I showed up. I was standing outside his limousine in all white. That's when I handed him the shirt. And I told him, don't forget my face. We sent the 6-pack, and I'm selling T-shirts out the trunk. Now, mind you, it's not so sexy, right? Like when I look back at the start, it was not so sexy, right? And so I'm selling the shirts out the trunk. So I pull up, right? So there are a number of barbershops and everything. So I pull up to this barbershop. I walk in and I'm showing these fellas like to buy shirts, support the youth, the young. This is what I'm doing, right? This is my, and they laughed. It was like, no, and laughed. In the back of the room was a friend of mine, uh, Mrs. Hogan, and her son and my daughter was going to school at the time, and she was doing nails, and she asked me to come to the back. She was like, "Cal, I'm about one. I see you out here for the dads. I see you out here with the kids and everything. I love what you do, the whole nine." And I said, "Well, thank you." She said, "I'm gonna buy one." I said, "No, here, you can have one, right?" And so she was like, "No, no, 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 I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna buy it. Don't worry about it. I'm gonna buy it, right?" And so I leave. I say, I walk out the door. So next morning I get up and on my computer is a message from her. And she was like, "Oh, like it's this crazy all caps message about I seen your stuff on Ron's house, this, that, and the other. You doing it, this, that, and I'm like, what? For real? So I turn and cut on the TV. And when I cut on the TV, here comes the preview of Ron's House season 4, and there it is. And there are a number of my quotes. Now I have over 400 affirmations, but there is a number of the quotes, and it's in the trailer, and I'm blown away. So I turn on to watch the show, and literally there it is. So I call my kids down, they're jumping up and down. Right, I called her. She was like, "Cal, as soon as you walked out, Ron's House came on, and your shirt was on Ron's House." She said, "You should have seen those fools' face." Right. So, and I just laughed. It was just very ironic. So I'm on the phone with Russell Simmons, like, "Hey, what do we have to do? What do we need to do? Because I love following him and his work." Make a long story short, Russell Simmons and I get on the phone. He says his brother is coming to Detroit. We're at Joe Louis Arena, so I show up when they come. He's with Kid Rock, and like clockwork, I'm going through the process of really, okay, should I go? Should I not go? And I show up. And when I show up, the first day, I'm there, I'm in the room, there's another person there that Russell sent to meet his brother, and we're talking and everything, and suddenly we're escorted out, right? So I see Russell, his Ron get on the bus, people get on the bus, and they were pulling out. And so I showed the shirt, and the kids was like, "Oh, oh, oh, they go to Emiy, right?" They at the glass. And so the guy jumps up and pulls the shades, right? And the bus pulls off. So next day I show back up and I'm there. And this time the bus driver like, "Man, I love what you're doing. Red Ron coming out right now." So I was like, okay. So I tucked myself so the same guy couldn't see me. Well, he sees me, right? They get security and security comes out. They're getting on the bus. And I'm going, why are they treating me this way? Like, for real. So I'm standing there talking to the security guy, and I'm going, do I look like I'm was talking? My stuff is on their show. Like I'm not understanding. So they pull the bus up, and the guy, he's standing right in the bus doorway with it closed, and I'm like, "Brother, what's happening? Like, what's going on? Like, y'all got my stuff on y'all show. Like, I'm just trying to say what's up." Russell set me down, and the dude turned his back, and then the bus pulls off. It's snowing. And so I don't understand what's going on. So I'm standing there and it's snowing pretty heavy. And this lady walks by. She was like, "You okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm okay." And so, she was like, "You gonna be all right?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be all right." And so she asked me, she was like, "What's wrong?" I was like, "My stuff is on their show and they just treated me like I was a criminal." And I couldn't understand that. And so she was like, "Okay." And then she leaves and she pulls back up with a car full of people. She jumps out. She said, son needs this shirt. And she handshakes me and put some money in my hand. And she was like, don't give up. And got in the car and drove off. I look at my hand, it's $100. And I just never understood that. And that, to add to that story, Jeff, I did a blog under To Be Unique. And I left it. That was the last thing I posted on the blog, was that incident. If you Google To Be Unique blog, you will see I marked it because I just never understood why. And someone would tell me later on it was about some legalities, whatever. I was like, man, nobody want to hear that. You know what I mean? Like, that was a tough thing because, again, that was an area where I could have just decided, you know what, it's not worth it.
I've heard a lot of your stories, and normally when people are laughed at or shot down like that, they tend to give up. And you have had people laugh at you over and over again. You've ran up against every single wall I think exists. I don't know how you found them all, but I think you did. But you've never quit. You've never stopped. No. I mean, if you look at looking at your Instagram, the pattern of action is all there. Like, every single inch of it shows that you've done the work for 14 years plus. And that just blows me away. I mean, what are some of the other struggles that you've run up against? What are some other stories like that? Because I've heard a bunch of them, but I figured others need to hear them too.
I was in a car. I was messing with real estate at this time. I was in a car, and over the radio came a house. They found 4 bodies in a house, a whole family. Right, and I'm in the car, and I started praying, and the quote came to me. I never put this quote out, but the quote came to me: "Mama's looking for daddy. Daddy's looking for mama. The kids need them both, and all they get is drama." And I pull up to where this was taking place. Now, this is in the daytime, which I normally don't do. Sun's out, and I pull up to the house, and the yellow tape is out or whatever. So I go beneath the yellow tape, and I literally lay 4 T-shirts at this site, say a prayer, and I leave. The next day, the house is on fire. I drive by, the 4 T-shirts are nowhere to be found. Right? Mm-hmm. And that, they were literally, it was a stash house. So the person knew that it was the stash house, knew the whole family. And they ended up catching him at a hotel on 8 Mile with a young lady. And, they showed on the news how the police walked in and had arrested him. And they found him with the money at the hotel. That one, I never put that quote up. And because I didn't know if it was appropriate, you know what I mean? And it's a truth, but is it appropriate? But it was that's the one story, right, that really turned me into seeking more of a solution. That's the one story. The other one was the 15-year-old boy whose father killed him in the lot next to his grandmother's house, where him and his mom stayed. And I remember seeing it on the news, and I couldn't understand how you would kill your 15-year-old son. I mean, what is it, right? And so the story goes, when it happened, I'm going to this place. Now, it's 2 days after the fact, mind you, because I contemplated going. And I turn down the street, and I'm coming down the street. I pull in front of the house, and when I pull in front of the house, I'm sobbing before I could even get out the car. Right, and as I'm sitting there, the door opens, and so I get out the car, go to the trunk to get the T-shirt, and when I pull the T-shirt out, now the grandmother is walking down. And so now I'm stuck at the trunk crying and everything. And so, she asked me, is it okay? And I was like, it's, and so I walked up to her to explain to her who I was and what I was doing. Right. So, mom, as me and her are talking, mom shows up, and, I hand mom the shirt. Of course, granny, she's not buying it. She's like, where's my shirt at? You know what I mean? Oh, you're not giving me the shirt, And so we ended up having a conversation, and she took me to the side of the house, and they were talking about how this man was a good father. Like, they don't know what really triggered him, right? Because the mom made the call to the dad. It might be time that you start having the birds and the bees conversation with your son, because he told me he, touched the private area of his sister's diaper. He didn't know no better. Now, mind you, this is a IEP kid too, right? And the father came over there, drug him out to the side of the lot, right? And really, actually, and he pointed the gun at so many people, because everybody was like, hey, 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 trying to stop him. And he executed his son.
Wow.
And a friend of mine that knew him said, Cal, nobody know where this come from, because he adored his son. I said, obviously he didn't. Right? You executed your son. Right? And so, to add more to the story, he was trying to play the whole, and, plead, the plea they throw in all the time of temporary insanity and all that game. And he ended up getting life. But that one, man. But the one I never told you is the one that really pissed me off.
What's that?
The lights out.
Oh.
So in the city of Detroit, everybody know, at the time there was a mayor, the lights in certain areas was out. Like, we didn't even have lights, while all this other stuff, personal stuff was happening. Like, the community, some of the blocks didn't have street lights. Like, they hadn't even replaced the street lights, like that kind of, right? And so there's the two young girls get up to go to school, the older sister and the younger sister, and they're crossing Schaefer at 6 Mile. And a car, like today, runs through the light. The little sister dashes out in front. The big sister puts her body and herself between the little sister and the car. The little sister's knocked out the way. The big sister's crushed.
Jeez.
Right? So news come on. Immediately I jump up. It's a restaurant at the corner of the block. So the next morning, I'm at the house. Now, this one is gut-wrenching. It's very, very gut-wrenching for me. And so I put the shirt right in the door. The quote on the shirt, I can't quite remember, but whatever the quote was, the mom literally opens the door. I don't know she opened the door, reads the shirt, and I hear this wail, and I turn around, and the mom is in her nightgown, and she is in full stride and jumps. Man. Woo. And I got the mom and the dad in my arms. It was just incredible.
You know, you help a lot of people, both kids and adults. And you never ask anything in return. You don't even people don't even know around you what you really do. I mean, would you mind telling the story about your cousin when he found out?
Oh yeah, we were there was a we were getting ready to shoot the "Encourage Me, I'm Young" song video, and that morning there was on the news flash was they found kid bones in a car in the back of a house, and
How old was the
we
kid?
decided okay, we don't know. I don't know till this day, right? They just know it was skeleton of a child, and so we show up to the house. It's on the east side. We show up to the house, and I got this T-shirt, and um, I get out. He gets out. I get out, and I go to the bush. Right. I say a prayer, and I leave the shirt. And he's videotaping, and I turn around to start singing, and then he gets back in the car. Like he just stops, gets back in the car, and he gets in the car. He's like, "Man, this what you've been doing all this time?" Like, yeah. He was like, man, I can't do it. Like he was just blown. Like, this is what you've been doing all these years. I was like, yeah. He was like, man, he just couldn't believe it. He's like, man, I he just was going through it. Didn't want to, like, we never finished. And that was the end of shooting that video, right? And the song. And so recently, because it's not out recently, I redid the whole song, and I'm getting ready to really shoot a real video. And I'm going to visit a number of these spots
You
of the
should.
ones that, like, yeah, the number of spots where these kids, right, were killed. I'm going to, because I just think at least I owe that.
Honestly, you owe nothing. The world owes you, frankly. 14 years you've been helping kids and doing this. Let's talk a little bit about your mentoring program. Can you tell us about that?
So my Future Leaders program was built because I was working at the juvenile, and they were picking up kids on writ to fill the beds back up. So, like, I'm sitting in the juvenile, like, where are these kids coming from? Now, I was in the juvenile. In the juvenile, they want you to take the kids down. They want you to be physical with the kid. If the kid get out of line, take them down. They train you how to take. I was like, man, this is a baby, right? And so for a year and a half, I'm working at this juvie, and I'm not taking one kid down. So you might do that, but I got a gift. I'm not about to do that. And they're gonna respond, right? And the beds, the pods were getting empty. And all of a sudden, one day, here come all these young black males in shackles. Now, mind you, Shadow, I had a hard time with juvenile in shackles anyway, right? It just, for me, it was hard. But here they come in the shackles. Man, I got on the microphone like, where are all these boys coming from? And they
Right.
was like, man, get off the microphone. Man, where are all these? I take the radio off my hip. I go to the pod, and I'm talking to these boys. They 18 and 19, dudes and dads and working. And I'm going, what the fuck? Like, I'm about to snap. And so The next day, I get on the phone. I start calling around. I know what I'm gonna do. Is this what they doing? I'm about to cut this off. So I call around. I meet a guy who since has passed. He's got a youth football team. Me and him get on the phone. We find the gym. I'm like, I put together a flyer, and we put the flyer out there. And in a blink, we had 350 boys. So 350 boys against 3, 4 men.
Mm.
So each kid, right? We had two simple rules. One was you can't use the N word, and two, you can't steal. You'll never be back in here, right? So those were the two stereotypical rules, right? You're right. We didn't have not one fight, and in 14 weeks they shut us down because we didn't have no money. So at that point, I said, okay, 14 weeks. I've seen a change in 14 weeks. Today, our Emiy Future Leaders program is 14 weeks. And from there, I had 250 males, 200, 200. I had the whole sophomore class at Highland Park. I had another 250 to all the boys at Finney High School where I got them once a month. And our outcomes and everything was there. And so I started the mentoring program, which means if you put it on paperwork now, there's a good chance you're going to cut a number of people in half. And that's what happened because so many people can't read, so many people didn't have money, right? Because it takes a little bit of money to do the facilitation. And we've built it now, certified mentoring program, and we're taking it national.
Nice. So can you tell me, talk a little bit about the mobile mentoring centers you want to make?
So the mobile mentoring is on the new website, right? It's a campaign where we can pull up to parks, we can pull up to houses, we can pull up, right? In combination of that, we have a 10-city plan, and therefore we can do the same thing in those 10 cities. But the whole point is to get to the boys, right? Because all of our boys are in trouble. And we like to think that it's only one boy, but the truth of the matter is all boys are in trouble. Now, you can look at it from a perspective of, right, let's look at it from the ignorant perspective. So we'll just say black boys, or we can look at it from all boys and say, okay, we got an opioid crisis. We got a suicide crisis. We got a gang problem, right? So we got a lot of issues. And so this way, suicide was the way that we could get in. So when we went to Alabama to review what was going on with the boys, suicide was the number 3 way to die in Alabama. So imagine having a mobile mentoring bus with our brand on it, our logo, and kids being able to come pull up to this van and get information that they're not getting. Here's some solutions, some speakers, the whole nine. So when they enter the mobile mentoring bus, here go a speaker or two giving you advice, right? And here's some information from your community to help you be better. And you're catching real solution advice.
Right. Bringing hope to those who feel like they don't have any direction.
None. Shadow, it's when we got this started Smash Suicide during COVID. So right, 2018 we recognized it. 2019, right, we were getting ready to do something about it. We lost a sponsor or two. Then 2020, here it is, knee deep, right? And since COVID, suicide uptick 200%. So when you're looking at the dynamic, right? We're saying 5 to 11. Actually, it's 5 to 14, right? Our number one, right? If we're inclusive, right? If we get out of the lane of this color, that color, if we're inclusive, hell, boys, males 5 to 80 are in trouble.
Suicide's always been something that really broke my heart because it's a permanent solution to a temporary problem. And they, like Les Brown says, the richest place on the planet is actually the graveyard, because that's where all the hopes and dreams and possibilities go to die.
Yes.
You've actually done the work, and
Man.
what's incredible is you've not only done the work, you've not only faced rejection after rejection, you've not only faced impossible odds quietly where no one even knows you're there. And yet, don't you have your own day? Tell us about that.
Yeah, the state of Michigan in 2016 was recognized by Wayne County for Calvin Mann Day, and then in 2018, the state of Michigan gave us the Emmy National Respect Day, April 6th every year. And the reason why April 6th is so we can impact education where kids will finish up strong. Because usually before the summer break, that's where we lose a lot of kids academically. Kids start falling off. It's sunny outside. You got prom, all of that. So Respect Day is like a rejuvenation into the education arm, and the kids finish school strong. And yeah, but it's funny. What you just said is funny. I had to think about that, right? Where does this resilience come from? And why am I so resilient? Because I got back up every time. I have not been in this really because dang, Shadow. I haven't been in this for myself. And but I was that kid, right? I was that kid. And I can imagine seeing what I'm seeing, what they're seeing, right? And I was that kid. And it's just I had to get back up, right? It's something in my DNA. It's from my parents, whatever. I saw a lot. I lost my dad at 24, lost my mom at 30, right? But I had to get back up, right? Every time, no matter what the circumstance was. But I believe it started in high school. My middle school basketball coach was the one to teach me a lesson, and we're friends to this day. As a matter of fact, we had dinner in Vegas. My middle school coach literally told me when I was a young man, in order to be on this basketball team, you got to lose this 10 pounds. Now, I was on the cut list, and my friend, to this day, couldn't make a layup, but here I could dribble, I could do it all, you know what I mean? And he cut me, but he called me into the office. He said, if you lose 10 pounds by the end of this week, I'll put you on the roster. I dropped that 10 pounds. I ended up starting as this little chubby basketball player. And that taught me. That lesson right there catapulted my ninth grade year when I walked into high school, 160 pounds soaking wet and ready to take on the world. And but I worked for it, right? And so those lessons taught me I could get back up, like no matter what the obstacle is. So that's what we teach our future leaders. You're gonna have obstacles, but you got to get back up, right? And you're gonna learn from it and grow from it. So imagine falling. Like we have these conversations with our mentees. Imagine setting somebody's garage on fire like I did, playing with matches, right? And standing there looking crazy, and being chased by my brother's friend, and we were able to save. They were able to save the garage, but I got kicked out of the elementary school. But I was playing with matches. I had no idea that the oil and gas at the foot is. I'm sitting there playing. Let's see if it light, and it lit. you know, but it was that. It was. I was a young man. I saw an All American. It's funny we having this conversation. I literally have on a Mumford hoodie. This young man, we called him Grasshopper. He was older with my brother. Now was an All American linebacker. So as a young man, I saw him get shot at the basketball court. So the only thing I have learned was to bounce back. And so I think that's why I'm able to do that.
Well, I will say that I pride myself in being a very, very resilient person. Like getting back up is just a way of life for me.
Right.
Like life's gonna sucker punch you over and over and over, but every time I get up, I'm stronger and I learn. But you're my hero, man, for sure. The countless stories I've heard, and I know that there's so many more that I haven't even, of your ability to get up, face the day, face the challenge, to make a difference completely selflessly is absolutely inspiring.
Thank you.
Even if you're in a wind tunnel. But
right. It's
no. I promise. I know you got things to do, so I promise I would keep it at an hour. We're almost there. Just finish this up by telling us about the 10,000 gifts.
So the idea behind the 10,000 gifts, right? So impacting 20,000 youth, reading, speaking, mentoring, the whole nine. The object was, can we get to 10,000? Can we give 10,000 youth gifts of encouragement? When you think of encouragement, you're going to think of Emiy. That's my whole piece. Like whenever I'm speaking, when you think of the word encourage, you're going to think of encourage me, I'm young, right? So knowing that we can give 10,000 gifts of encouragement, excuse me, I need to move. Knowing that, hold on, I think I got it. So knowing that we can give 10,000 gifts of encouragement, right? What does that look like? The first 11 letters of encouragement is encourage me. See?
Right.
So that's why the shirt is encourage me, right? Because it encourage me, I'm young is it, but encourage me is for everybody. So my whole point was to put seeds, right? Just like our labeling says. Our labeling says, this is beautiful, man. I am so proud of this. Our labeling says, on the label, when you receive a shirt, it says, planting seeds to change the world. Established 1992, and it has a flower, and it has two shovels, and it has two shovel handles. And then it says, encourage me, I'm young. That process of putting that in your home or putting that on your child or putting that in your community, I've seen remarkable results. So by giving these 10,000 gifts, well, 9,980 now, gifts, what happens is you're impacting some life in a person's life with encouragement, right? And what does that look like? Because our brand forces you as the adult, parent, teacher, whoever, to utilize that tool. So if you see a kid in an Emiy t-shirt, the first thing you say, "Oh, encourage me, I'm young." Where you get that from? So that's the first thing kids get. I remember I got a speaking engagement just by a kid walking into an alternative education school with the shirt on because they had kicked him out of one school. He didn't want to go. So I had did this track team and he was on the track team. And so they shipped him to the school. And when they shipped him to the school, one of the teachers asked him where he get the shirt from. Now on the back of the shirt was a great quote. And so they called and I had to come in and they wanted me to speak. So they set up rooms, right, to talk to these kids. These kids were getting high, the impact at the school. So one t-shirt literally impacted the entire school. So I was there speaking to classrooms the whole nine for 2 days, right? Going through the whole school, having this conversation. Kids were buying shirts, teachers were buying shirts. Those seeds are out there.
So I know that there's, money to fund things you get from this, but the real purpose behind the 10,000 gifts is just to spread the message 10,000 strong to the communities, correct?
Yep. And whatever money we raise, right, we're going to either put the money into our building our empowerment center, mobile mentoring bus, right? And here's another great catch. $1 from each shirt. So it's not like we're going to make a whole bunch of money, right? $1 from each shirt is going toward building a school in Ghana, in Lima, Ghana. And the reason why is because we've planted seeds in Ghana since 2009. And the poverty in Lima, Ghana is connected to one of my former coaches who coached with me, who, we've been giving money for years, not realizing they were building a school. And get this, and he's Muslim, right? So, like, you know what I mean? In this country that is basically what they call themselves, Christians, but that doesn't matter to him. He's going to do the work. This is what our coaching staff was amazing. And so here he is, because he was the person that recognized I had a gift way back then, because he watched me take families and put them back together. So families were apart. The mother was sitting on this side of the gym, the father sitting on this side of the gym, and the son can't play the game because he's got to look up to the left and he's got to look up to the right to acknowledge, well, man, get y'all ass over here. Listen, your son can't afford that. I need y'all to sit together and be cordial, right? And make sure, right, he sees y'all in the same spot so we can keep him focused on achieving. And recently, a number of those kids eventually graduated from college, the whole nine, and, played college sports. But the whole point is everything we do goes towards something.
Completely.
We're not just, taking the money and, right.
Well, I mean, it's a 501c3, so I mean,
right,
like every
right,
dollar has to be accounted for anyways.
Anyway, and I got a hell of a CPA, right? And I don't move unless he tells me to move, right? And so, and he does audits for all the major organizations, and so he sits on my board. We, he always tells me, man, you are doing so much with so little. I don't even know how to even say this to you. You know what I mean? You're doing so much with so little.
Well, maybe, like since the first day I met you and I heard your story and I saw you, I told you, I don't care what it takes. I'm going to make dang sure that the world sees you because they deserve to see you. You are a walking Emiy. Okay. You are true encouragement. You are hope just by who you are.
Man.
And I don't care what it takes. I will put you in front of I'm going to put you in front of the world.
Well,
because you've earned.
We're doing that, Shadow. Thank you. The great part is, look what came out of that, a friendship. It's just, you know, everything that we're about and everything that, man, I got a lot of emotion right now. And because you're opening up wounds here, right? You're, you're taking band-aids off of things that are kind of like tucked away, but I understand because no one has asked me the questions that you ask. And uh, again, it's just a coincidence. It, it's you and I, right? And then like I was telling you yesterday, it's that a lot of people get on this app, made a lot of promises. I can honestly say you're the only one that kept it.
Well, it's just who
You're
I
the
am.
only you're the only one that kept it. And that's what we're about, loyalty and integrity.
Mm-hmm.
And so it had to be you because I wasn't going to mess with anybody else that wasn't loyal or integral.
Yeah.
And I'm getting to the point, like I was telling you, I say I'm at the point now, oh, I'm ready. Speaking wise, I'm ready. And so the volume is going to get louder. I am coming, and I'm not, uh, you deal with a lot because this world is hateful, is prejudiced, is racist, is homophobic, is it's a lot of those things. I had to grow out of all of those things. Although I wasn't taught racism, I had to grow out of all of those things for this journey. That is the impact where I've improved myself. I had to grow out of all those things, right? To see the beauty of what God has really handed us as humans and that we didn't do nothing with it. We wars and violence and pestilence and racism and right. So the man who's behind all of that, that's why males are in the trouble. So I just decided at this point, okay, God, use me. So here we are. I'm going the other way. So people can't see you because they're going full speed one way and you're running straight toward them. And they're like, you stupid. You crazy. You a fool. I can't believe you doing this. Where are you at? Like, I'm still running through the traffic. They're still going right by. Nobody's, but you turned around. He was like, hey, I see you. And like I said, there are a lot of people that'll look at and they come with their mind and they don't see the success. I've been successful. I've been successful for 36 years. I've never failed, right? I've only fallen, but I've never failed. Success doesn't necessarily mean you have $1 million at the end of the journey. Maybe you've impacted 20,000 youth. That's success.
Yes. That's worth way more than $1 million.
That's
Way
worth
more.
way more. You had to pay me. If you had to pay me scholarship money for each one of them, I'm 3, 4, 5 times millionaire, right? If you had to, for every scholarship that we help a kid go to school, if you had to pay me for that, right? The sacrifice has always been there. Now, have I gotten better in my monetary ask? Oh yeah. Have I gotten better in my presentation? I sure have,
I sure
and
hope
I can
so.
rock it. Yeah, I can rock your schools. I can rock your homes. I can rock your interviews. So yes, I've gotten better, but I had to go through all of that to continue making that much of a difference. And so I'm grateful.
Well, Calvin, I know you got a funeral to get to, so I'm going to go ahead and end this live video, but I'm going to end it like this. So if you guys are at home watching, I put the link to emyworld.com in the bio. You've just heard this man's story. You've heard all the lives he's impacted and what he's trying to do. Give the gift of an Emmy shirt to somebody. I don't care if you walk up and give it to a stranger on the street. It's
Yes,
about the message of giving hope, plain and simple.
yes,
He has a goal of 10,000 shirts. just so 10,000 communities and families can see a little encouragement. They're not expensive, but the impact can be worth it. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off the social media streaming. I'll stay on Clubhouse for a second, but if you're watching at home, till next time.